Hello, friends. Today we're going to talk about Spirit Vessel, which is one of the first items you need to think about. I would probably say it's actually the very first item you need to think of as a team, whether you need it or not. And then I realized I can't really talk about Spirit Vessel without talking about Urn of Shadows, so we're going to do both in this video, even though the focus is really on Spirit Vessel, and I'm just hiding behind here again because I would have blocked the title. So let's get into it. Take a look at Spirit Vessel here. So oftentimes, well, it's kind of weird. Right now, it's probably a little bit more of a core item. But if your team needs it and no one else is going to buy it, then we're going to need to buy it on a support. And on a 4 support, it's kind of okay. It's not really a big deal. And in fact, I kind of like Spirit Vessel on 4 supports. As the 5 support, it's kind of weird. But if no one else is going to get one, then you need to get one. So usually I would say 5 supports don't want to get this item. But again, you need it, then you need it. And you're just going to have to get it. So, see these attributes? Don't worry about them. The reason Spirit Vessel is so important is this right here. Reduce... it's right here. Reduces HP regeneration, healing, lifesteal, and spell lifesteal by 45%. Okay? Before, the only thing in this game that could do anything like that could prevent healing was Ancient Apparition's ultimate. And that was the one thing in the game that could reduce healing or prevent it at all. So then they finally introduced Spirit Vessel, which would reduce the amount of healing, which finally gave people an option of like, oh, they have an Alchemist, guess we have to take, Ancient Apparition. Or if our support's already picked and they picked Alchemist, like, well, all right, no counterplay now. And so that's why Spirit Vessel was so big. Now, recently, they started to add this effect to other items. So Shiva's Guard has it as a passive aura, and Scotty has it when you attack people. Those are kind of core options. All of these are core options, technically. But is a support ever going to buy Eye of Scotty or Shiva's Guard? Not really. But we might buy Spirit Vessel. And so even though there are now other items which can help reduce healing, Spirit Vessel is the item that can be bought first. Like, no one's going to open up Shiva's Guard. No one's going to open up with Eye of Scotty. It's really bad. These are late game items. And so in that early to mid game section of the game, Spirit Vessel is still your go-to item for all of this. Now, its other stats are not bad. Okay, so you do a flat amount of damage, 35 seconds. But then you also do 4% of current health. And we're going to look at some math. I'll pull up an Excel sheet in a little bit. That'll help explain the numbers. It also provides a heal. I don't recommend ever using this as a heal. Again, we'll look to the numbers in a second. Now let's think about the stats a little bit. But again, it doesn't... If you need this, you just need this. It's not like you can choose between Force Staff and Glimmer, where it's like, oh, against a Skywrath, either of these will work, so which stats will help me the most? It's like, there is no alternative item for reducing healing for supports besides this item. So if you need it, you just need it. You really don't need to think about these attributes. So the reason we will think about these attributes a little bit is because it might affect what other items we buy. So for example, if I need some mana regen and I know I'm going to buy a Spirit Vessel, well then maybe I don't need to buy a Ring of Basilius. And I'll save the money instead of buying the Ring of Basilius, 425 gold for 1.4 mana regen. If I'm just thinking about myself, forget my team, then it's like, usually I need mana regen and I buy a Ring of Basilius. But I know I'm going to get a Spirit Vessel this game, so now I can actually cut this out of my item build, this Ring of Basilius, and just use that gold straight into my Spirit Vessel. Or more likely, the Urn to start. That's where you get the mana regen. So we don't think about the attributes in terms of, like, deciding whether we want Spirit Vessel or not. We think about it in terms of what can we cut out of our item build instead. So, like, same deal. It's got some armor. So if we were thinking about getting an early buckler because we needed some armor, maybe we decide, you know what, I'm just going to get a Ring of Protection because this will build into the urn. And, like, that's pretty nifty for me. So, yeah, that's that. Let's talk about the urn. Urn used to be a dead-end item, and that was okay. It was pretty cheap, and it was good value. That's kind of it. It pretty much does what it still does now, where provides a heal or damage, depending if you use it on an ally or an enemy. What am I trying to say here? If you're a support, you're almost always thinking about Spirit Vessel. Like, no one thinks about a casual urn, really. You sort of can, but really it's only good on, like, roaming 4s who are going to move around a lot, and they may not buy Tranquil Boots, so someone like Bounty Hunter, who is very happy to have some mana regen from this item, and when he is involved in kills like he wants to be, he's going to get these charges, which he can use to heal himself or his allies, and that becomes kind of his sustain and damage item. For 840 gold, pretty good value. But if you're going to do that on Bounty Hunter, you're probably just going to round it out to a Spirit Vessel. So casual urn, not so much of an item nowadays. Maybe it should be, because it's like pretty good value. The stats, all really nice. 1.5 mana regen, 2 attributes. It's not a ton, but it's like, you know, whatever. And 2 armor, also quite nice. The big weakness of Urn of Shadows, that if your team is not getting kills, not a good item. You don't get charges to heal yourself, you don't get charges to do damage, then all you're getting for 840 gold is armor, attributes, and mana regen, which is like kind of okay, but like not really what I bought this item for. So getting charges and being involved in kills is a pretty important aspect of these items. So if your team is really behind, I would never get a casual Urn of Shadows. But if my team is really behind and we're against a specific hero that needs a Spirit Vessel, then I have to get it anyways, and I have to be really careful with the charges if ever I get, because I don't know if I'm going to get another one because we're so behind. So that may not make too much sense right off the bat, but I think that'll help. That'll start making sense once we get to this Excel sheet here, which I blacked out some to not burn out your eyes with the white. Okay, so first let's talk about Urn of Shadows. So you do 30 HP per second. It lasts for 8 seconds. So you're going to heal your teammates 240. Now, if you consider that they have like some magic resistance, then the effective heal is like 300. Don't really worry about this. This is just for comparison's sake. So damage, 25 damage per second for 8 seconds. So you do 200 damage overall. And then if you factor in the 25 magic resistance that every hero has, technically it's just 150. But we're going to highlight these like original values anyways, just so you know that whether you heal or you use it as damage, the value you're getting is pretty similar. And so paying like 900 gold, what's it? It's 875 for the urn, 840. Whoops, how embarrassing. It's 840 gold for the urn, and you know, if you're gonna get a couple charges here and there, and you're gonna use it to heal, like that's not too bad. That's why this was a decent item before, where it was kind of a dead end item, and it was like, I like the stats, and I get charges, I use it. It's not that expensive, so like this is pretty value. Now we're gonna reveal Spirit Vessel. Okay, Spirit Vessel has a flat heal. It's 40 for 8 seconds again, so it heals 320 320 health. Sorry, this is a little messy, but you know, just listen to me as I talk about it. 320 heal compared to 240 heal before. Urn of Shadows, 840 gold. Spirit Vessel, 2,940. It is a big difference in gold to get 80 more heal. In other words, it's really bad as a heal. For the amount of money you're paying, like that's not a good use of your charges for the most part. Especially when we consider the damage it can do. So first off, the damage is, what did I say, 35? Sorry, even I don't really remember all these numbers right off the top of my head. 35. Usually I do, but I'm dumb right now. 35 damage per second. That ends up 280 damage over 8 seconds. So a little bit of an increase from Urn of Shadows. But it also does that percent health stuff. So this number's from the Dota Wiki. I'm going to trust it's real. I'm sure I could do the algebra myself, but who wants to do that? Let's just take this value. So over 8 seconds, you do 27.86% of their current health as damage. So if they are sitting at 1000 damage, then the total damage you would do over 8 seconds would be 278.6. And then you add in that 280 flat damage here. And then with the magic resistance, like this is how much damage you would end up doing. So if they're at 1000 health, 419 damage is like okay. So we see that similar value from like Earn up here, 240 versus 200. And we see some like a similar level of value where it's like, okay, if I use it as damage, I'm doing about 400. If I'm using it as a heal, I'm doing about 300. Like, that's kind of okay. But the thing is, most carries have way more than 1000 health. 1000 health is a support, okay? So imagine you use this on a full health support. You just did half their health with one item, which is pretty crazy. But let's look at when it's a core who most likely has 2000 to 3000 health, okay? You're doing 600 to 800 damage on this core. But if you use it as a heal, it would still just be 320. And if you get into some crazy games where you get to like 4000, 5000 health on some heroes, do you see how much damage you can do with this item? Now, I know you can dispel the effects of this item, so like let's keep that in mind soon. But when those are not in play, the potential for damage far outscales what you can do as a heal. And if your carry has like 2000 health, that's their max health, and they survive a fight and they're at 500 and they're like, oh, heal me. And you heal them and they're at 800. Like, I think that sucks because frankly, you're still really at risk of dying at 800 health compared to 500 health. And so unless you have a ton of charges, I think it's a waste to heal people as opposed to saving it for damage when you could be doing like a ton. Now, let's consider the fact that this is just the damage. We haven't even started talking about the fact that Spirit Vessel's active reduces healing of all sorts. So like HP regen, heals, spell lifesteal, regular lifesteal, all of that. We're going to talk with HP regen first. So it's not that weird to have 10 or 20 HP regen like towards the later games for just a typical carry. And so over 8 seconds, that's how long the Spirit Vessel lasts. They would usually regen 80 health if they had 10 HP regen per second, or 160 if they had 20. And the vessel reduces it so that now they are only healing 44 or 88. So we reduced it by 36 and 72, respectively. And this is kind of small, I admit. But if you factor it into like the others, so like say they're a 2000 health hero with 10 HP per second, you're approaching 700. That's a bit of a jump. 650 damage. Like, it's not amazing, but it's not the worst. But the real thing comes in when we start thinking about heroes like Alchemist. So Alchemist's ultimate gives him 50, 75, and 100 HP regen per second, respectively. So at level 6, 12, and 18. That means for those 8 seconds, instead of healing for 400, 600, or 800, he heals 220, 330, 440. Which means you are now doing 180 damage to 360 damage on this guy. This is where we start getting into some serious numbers. Because imagine an alchemist, right, sitting at about 3,000 health. So you're doing 830 damage, just like the flat damage from the item. And then you're also preventing, let's say, like 270 heal from his HP regen. We're getting to be a lot. And then let's think about heals. Some common values for heals are like 275 from mech. Or like Wand is 300. Greaves is also 300. And so you're reducing those items by, a bit over 100. It's like, it's not free damage because you pay like 3,000 gold for this item. But I hope it's becoming clear how it's like, okay, we factor in the damage. We factor in how much regen they're preventing. We factor in the heals they might be missing out on. And we are getting there, okay? Now, there's no heal in the game that just straight up heals you for like 2,000 health. But just hypothetically thinking, if between they had a Dazzle on their team healing them, they had some high HP regen, someone used a mech, they lifesteal a little bit in the fight. If they were supposed to lifesteal or heal or whatever for 1,000, you actually reduce that by 450. If they were supposed to steal like 2,000 through all their assorted forms of healing, you reduce that by 900. Like, these numbers start to get crazy the higher up you go. That's why this item is so good. There's nothing behind this last box. So that's it for the XL. In summary, if you have a spirit vessel, it has far more potential as a damage dealing item, like the use of the charge, as opposed to a heal. I think it's so bad as a heal. I try to never use mine as a heal unless I have probably like 5 or 6 charges, like plus. But yeah. So let's ditch that. Let's come back to the client. This is what you're here for, the heroes. When do we need a spirit vessel? So Alchemist was my example. Why? He has crazy healing with his ultimate. And you notice a lot of these guys have some kind of crazy healing mechanic. Huskar, when he gets really low, he starts healing up a bunch. And that's just Huskar's thing. He sits at low health and he heals a ton. And so if you can reduce his healing, you actually make it possible for him to die. And he also likes to play around with Armlet. And if he is under the effects of Spirit Vessel, then it won't do so much for him. Morphling, when he morphs Strength, he gets a ton of health. But if you have Spirit Vessel on him, it does a crazy amount of damage to him. And it also reduces the amount that he can transfer to health. It's a little wonky, and to be honest, I'm not 100% sure how it works. That's something I should learn, but I can at least tell you that it definitely ruins this hero's day. If you can put Spirit Vessel on him when he's at high agility, when he wants to morph to Strength, it sucks. He just can't do anything. And he'll die in fights a lot easier. Io, as a hero, he himself heals, and then he heals his target when he's tethered to someone. The question is then, like, oh, do I use Spirit Vessel on Io or whoever he's tethered to? That is a tough question, to be honest. It'll depend a bit. So, say it's like Io with PA. Then I think it's okay to use it on Io because Io is the one providing a lot of the healing from like overcharge, and if he has a mech or something. Whereas if Io is tethered to like a Bristleback, where Io is providing a lot of healing, but Bristleback is also providing some heals for himself. So like he'll have like a pipe or something. He has some spell lifesteal from his abilities. Maybe he has a heart. At that point, then it kind of becomes good to use Spirit Vessel on Bristleback. But it's still kind of a tough choice. I don't have a clear-cut answer for you. It really comes down to like who can we actually kill first. Usually you need to kill Io first. And that's why using Spirit Vessel on Io tends to be a safe bet. Because frankly, if he's not providing healing, then it's like, what's he doing? Whereas if you use it on, say, the Bristleback when they're tethered, Bristleback doesn't get healed, but Io is healing. So Io is not likely to die anytime soon. Whereas, Bristleback is a little easier to kill, but he's still getting some healing from Io. And when that Spirit Vessel charge ends, like, Bristleback's going to shoot up. And whereas if we use it on Io, Io's healing is reduced, and therefore the healing on his target is also reduced. But again, it kind of depends who's on your team and who's focused on, like, what. If this guy is almost dead, then yeah, maybe we just use it on him and finish it off. If the fight has just started, maybe we pick off Io first, because Io's way easier to kill, and that's generally what you should do, like with the Io Bristleback example. But there are other cases where it's, like, really hard to decide. And in that case, I would just throw it on Io to be safe, and then figure it out from there. So these are the 4 heroes that I think that if they're in the game, you really need to buy a Spirit Vessel. Now again, as a support, you don't strictly need to buy it. But if none of your cores are going to get it, then you have to get it. So against a Huskar, like, if you have an Ember Spirit mid, that Ember Spirit should really buy a Spirit Vessel as his first item. Or if you have like a Nature's Prophet offlane, he can buy Spirit Vessel because he teleports to all the ganks. And if your offlaner's not getting it and your mid's not getting it, it's a very rare item for a position 1 to get. Then whoever your position 4 should probably get it. So someone like Phoenix likes to get Spirit Vessel a lot. That's fine. The 4 is also a good builder for it. But if you're a position 5 player and you're watching this, usually you don't want to buy this item. I know I've said this a lot, but like, that's how important I think it is to like re-emphasize this. Where if no one else is getting it, you have to get it first. Because like an Alchemist with uncontrolled healing, like you saw that Excel sheet, right? He's gonna heal a crazy amount, And what else could you contribute as a support that would have more impact than just doing like 1,000 damage to this alchemist and preventing him from healing like 500 health? Like, what could have more impact than 1,500 health on the alchemist? Like, a Dagon fully charged only does like, actually, I have no idea. What a foolhardy example. 800 damage. I was gonna say 900. 800 damage from a Dagon, which is like 7,000 gold. And this is 3,000 gold, and against certain heroes, does work. So, against these heroes, you should grab it. Highly recommended heroes. So, Timbersaw. This might surprise some of you. Why is he not in a must-buy? Well, it's because Timbersaw doesn't actually heal unless he's been hit a lot. So, if he's not got a lot of reactive armor, then the Spirit Vessel is not, like, super useful. He's not a hero that gets a ton of health a lot of the times. That's not totally true. It's more like, what am I trying to say here? It's more like by the time you as a support might pick up a Spirit Vessel, he already has something to deal with Spirit Vessel. The Spirit Vessel can actually be dispelled. So it's a 3,000 gold item, which means as a support, by the time you get it, it's probably somewhere between 10 to 20 minutes, depending how well your game's going. He probably has a Lotus Orb. He probably has a Yule's. He might have a Greaves. Spirit Vessel's not going to do a lot to Timbersaw at that point. Whereas you compare it to these guys, like an Alchemist, Manta is not that common to build anymore. So unless he is getting like BKB second or third item, you have a timing window to use it. Huskar, same deal. He like starts off strong, and then he'll get a BKB a little bit later, usually after like Armlet, Halberd, and then the BKB. Morphling, he'll get a Manta eventually, usually. Maybe a BKB, but it like comes a bit later. So there's like a timing window for Spirit Vessel to be good, whereas Timbersaw, it's like harder. Still pretty good to get. Like, having said all that, still pretty nifty. Bristleback, kind of the same deal, where he's a very good target for Spirit Vessel, similar to Timbersaw, but like he can also get Lotus Orb, and that's a very popular pickup on Bristleback. And like conveniently, it also deals with Spirit Vessel. Necrophos, a hero that heals a lot. Also, Ghost Shroud means he amplifies magic damage he takes. So that means Spirit Vessel does a lot against this guy. Lone Druid. So it's actually pretty good on the Bear or on Lone Druid. So on the Bear, by level 7, the Bear is like 2,700 health. So you're already going to do a lot of damage to the Bear. The Bear tends to, well, it kind of depends on the build, but they often buy like Mask of Madness, and they'll heal up from Lifesteal just a little bit. And oftentimes the way to deal with Lone Druid is actually to just kill his Bear, because the Bear is like surprisingly fragile. That might surprise people, but usually you just kill the Bear. Like, that's actually what you do. And so you Spirit Vessel the Bear to do damage, and you just kill the Bear, and then Lone Druid just does like nothing on his own. Or, depending on the positioning of the game, like what's happening, sometimes you do use it on Lone Druid because he has no item, so he has no way to dispel it from himself. But the Bear can lifesteal him, so when the Bear does damage, Lone Druid gets healed. That does not work in reverse. But True Form also gives him a ton of health, so 500, 1,000, 1,500. And so, let's say this guy's a level 18 Lone Druid. He uses True Form, the Bear's trying to lifesteal for him, but you just use Spirit Vessel on Lone Druid. He takes a ton of damage from all the health he has, and then he's also not getting healed the way he usually is from Spirit Bear. Yeah, it just like really hurts this hero. He doesn't like to buy items that dispels Spirit Vessel, and even if he does, like he gets BKB, for example, on the Bear, then you use it on Lone Druid, and the Bear, like, what's he gonna do? He's not gonna do anything. Yeah. Meepo. Also a hero that buys a lot of stats to tank up, and with Ransack, he actually lifesteals a lot. It can be quite difficult to kill this guy. But he does not buy items that dispels Spirit Vessel. So when he has like 4 Meepos killing someone, you identify which Meepo is the weakest, you use Spirit Vessel on that Meepo, and remember, you only have to kill 1 Meepo. So if all the others are healing, it's like, whatever. This 1 Meepo is taking a lot of damage and not healing as fast. We focus that guy. And Meepo himself does not have a way to dispel that. He'll need a teammate to do it for him. And, coordinating's hard in pubs. Spectre, another hero that just depends on being extremely tanky, and that's kind of her thing. So against Spectre, it's not so much about preventing healing. It's about the fact that she's just a really tanky hero. She has, like plus 400 health. She gets like a heart, has stats from like Manta, maybe a Scotty, whatever she chooses to buy. She's just a tanky hero. So using Spirit Vessel on her, get her killed off, good stuff. These are the heroes that you really need to think about. All the others are just kind of like a bit for fun. Why is my camera suddenly out of focus? What just happened? That's kind of bizarre. Okay, so Pudge, not very good right now, but sometimes Pudges do go mid in like lower ranked games, definitely. Or you just have a pub game where Pudge is doing well, even though he's technically not good right now. Because of his Flesh Heap and because he heals from Dismember, using Spirit Vessel on him means he just takes a crazy amount of damage and he won't heal from this. Plus, he's probably hurting himself from Rot, so it's just a great way to like really whittle him down. Dragonite, again, tanky hero, lots of regen. Monkey King, two purposes. One, so that when he gets Jingu Mastery up and then he uses his Q to lifesteal, and have you ever seen it where he's like almost dead and then he heals literally all the way? Spirit Vessel can help with that to a degree. Like, he's still going to heal a decent amount, but better than going to completely full health. But an added benefit is that he cannot use Tree Dance as long as he's taking damage. So if you throw a charge on Monkey King, then for 8 seconds, he can't get into the trees. Now, if he's already in trees, then he can continue to Tree Dance. That's kind of annoying. But let's say he's on the ground fighting, you use Soul Vessel on him, and then now if he wants to get away, he can't like stun you, run away, and then Tree Dance. He has that 8 seconds before he can do that. Pugnut's going to sit there and suck you off. And you're just going to Spirit Vessel him, and then he won't heal as much. Depending who he's targeting, they might still die, because it's like not actually preventing him from doing anything. But it's not bad to use on him, especially if he decrepifies himself or something. You're just going to deal a decent amount of damage to him, especially if he's decrepified, because you're getting that amplified damage. But you're also preventing him from just healing so easily. Invoker, crazy amount of regen from Quas. So if you look at the HP regen per instance, he can have up to 3 instances of Q. Now, having said that, it's pretty common to stop at level 4 Quas on Invoker, no matter whether you play QW or QE. So at 7 HP regen per instance, he could have up to 21, which, I mean, that's still pretty good. It's a little bit better than Dragonite's, who is 16. And many people think of Dragonite as like a high healing hero, but I don't think they fully realize like how much HP regen. Sorry, I keep hitting this mic. I'm too excited. How much HP regen you actually get from Quas. Yeah. So Phoenix, I don't actually use the Spirit Vessel on Phoenix. Phoenix's E, Sunray, will heal for a percent heal. So using it on the target is actually a little better. Let's just say Phoenix is healing his, I don't know, Sven. Then use Spirit Vessel on Sven. So Sven will take damage, but then he'll also get a reduced amount of heal from this, like this base heal plus max % health heal. Death Prophet, again, a little bit mixed results on here because she very frequently buys Yules, which dispels Spirit Vessel. But at the same time, if you have Spirit Vessel going on her when she's trying to like Spirit Siphon people, or when the spirits are coming back to heal her, that can be really painful for this hero. And she does have a health talent as well, so in the beginning of the game, she's not too tanky usually, but at the end, she starts to get pretty tanked up, and Spirit Vessel has some good value. Broodmother, because of her lifesteal, she can be really hard to deal with, and so if you have a Spirit Vessel on her, that can help. It doesn't help you with the spiders at all. The spiders might still kill you. But if just Broodmother is the issue, which isn't usually the case, but if it is, Spirit Vessel. Now, Gyrocopter is not the best example, but what I wanted to point out with Gyrocopter is an example of any hero that buys Satanic, you're going to get mixed results. So Satanic, where is it? Let's point this out. So Satanic gives you a crazy amount of lifesteal when you use it, but it also provides some status resistance. So when you use Spirit Vessel on someone casually, it only lasts 5 seconds. So they're still going to take a lot of damage, sure, but that extra, let's say 3 seconds of reduced healing could be like it's wasted value because it's not going to last as long on them. But when they activate Satanic actually only lasts 5 seconds. So if you see them use Satanic and then you Spirit Vessel them, that can really hurt the value they get out of their own Satanic. So if there's a carry that has Satanic, try not to just use it on them for like no reason unless you really need to. Try to wait for them to actually pop Satanic and then use the Spirit Vessel on them. If you have a ton of charges, then just like throw them on, like use it beforehand and then use it again after. I think that's fine. But if you're like low on charges and you're trying to be like very careful, wait for them to use it. Now, the reason Gyrocopter's on here is because he does get Satanic, and then he pops Flat Cannon and hits everyone, and he like heals to full instantly. And so that exact moment is kind of when you want to try to Spirit Vessel him. Honestly, he'll probably still heal up almost all the way, but maybe he won't. That's why he's kind of like a poor example. So let's actually I don't want you to think about him too much. And I would say there's a significant drop off. Okay, so if you see any one of these heroes, you probably want a Spirit Vessel on your team. If you see any one of these heroes, Spirit Vessel's a very good item, and as long as you don't need something else first, like a Force Staff or Glimmer, you'd be okay getting a Spirit Vessel as well. Anyone not in these first 2 tiers is like, I don't need a Spirit Vessel. You don't need a Spirit Vessel to deal with Pudge. You don't need a Spirit Vessel to deal with Monkey King or Pugna, Invoker, like any of these heroes. But they add value to the item. So if you see 3 heroes from this tier and none in this tier, so you have like a, I don't know, Invoker, Monkey King, and Pudge, like you might be thinking like, oh, that's actually an okay Spirit Vessel game. It's not mandatory like it is against these guys, but it's like not a bad item, and it would be up to consideration versus like Force Staff and Glimmer. Whereas this tier is like, there is no choice. I am getting Spirit Vessel first item. And then finally, your not so good category. Oh, so actually one more category. That's not necessarily on here, but like anytime you have a strength hero, any of these guys, it could be decent, right? Anytime someone is a very tanky hero, the item's not too bad. Yeah, that's it. Not so good. If they can just purge it off, what's the point of spending 3,000 gold on an item that gets purged off immediately? The Legion Commander, Abaddon, Oracle, Omni Knight, all heroes with purges. And so if they have a Alchemist on the enemy team and you try to use your Spirit Vessel on Alchemist and any of these 4 heroes just purges it off, you've got an issue. This is where AA is still much better than a Spirit Vessel, and also where like Scotty and Shiva's Guard might start to be required later in the game, and I'm glad they have the effect now. When Spirit Vessel had that aura effect, that was really good, but now we're back to it just being on the active, which is a shame. Tidehunter can purge himself, so even though he's a strength hero, the most damage you'll ever get off on a Tidehunter is 450 damage. I'm not even going to worry about those others. Like, I know technically the threshold is higher at a lower level, but by the time you get a Spirit Vessel, he probably has Kraken Shell, like, fairly leveled up. So you're just not going to get a lot of damage off on Tidehunter. He's going to purge the effects of Spirit Vessel, and then he's going to heal like normal. And he also tends to buy, like, aura items like Guardian Greaves, which gives himself a Dispel. He doesn't mind buying Lotus Orb. So, like, these items, even if he didn't have his own Dispel, he can use them to purge it as well. Slark, Dark Pack, purges it off. So even though Slark is a hero that heals like crazy, it's just not good against him because he can purge it. Same with Naga. Naga can use Mirror Image and purge it off. It's also hard to know which illusion is the right one. And they're all just really tanky. Spirit Vessel's just not the way you deal with Naga, essentially. Now, if she's in the game and you have a Spirit Vessel, like, she's not a bad target for it, but just seeing Naga Siren in the game alone is not Like, it doesn't feel good to get a Spirit Vessel against her, even though you see her being really tanky, because she's going to have Mirror Image and she's going to have a Manta. She has 2 ways to deal with it. Maybe she even gets a BKB. She usually doesn't want to, but, like, you know, it doesn't feel the best to me to get a Spirit Vessel against Naga Siren. I prefer to get other items instead. Phantom Lancer, very similar. Doppelganger, very low cooldown. Can also buy a Manta. It's also very difficult to target the correct Phantom Lancer to use a Spirit Vessel on. So I just don't think he's a good target. Chaos Knight, I fooled you. Chaos Knight's actually okay. You know why? Because even though his ultimate is a Dispel, it's a very long cooldown. Now, it just got nerfed down to 75 seconds, so actually, maybe it's not so bad. This guy does get Manta sometimes, but not always. Does get BKB sometimes, but not always. And he's a strength hero. He builds a lot of strength items as well. And so Spirit Vessel on him, not too bad. Plus the fact that Chaos Strike heals him, whereas neither of these heroes have an innate lifesteal mechanic. Like, against Chaos Knight, it's like kind of okay. Juggernaut, no good. Even though he's got Healing Ward, he just uses Blade Fury, doesn't affect him. Same with Lifestealer. Strength hero that lifesteals a lot, but he has Rage. So now OD can just Astral Imprison himself or his teammates, and then you lose half the value, half the duration of a Spirit Vessel charge. So let's say you use it on, I don't know, let's say it's the CK, and then he Astrals his teammate, and for 4 seconds, like, nothing is happening to CK, and then he comes out, and there's 4 seconds left, but it's like cutting the value of your item in half. So it doesn't feel as good. Shadow Demon. So interestingly, there's 2 ways this works. Shadow Demon has Disruption, which is shorter than Astral Imprisonment, but that same concept of like, oh, I used it on this target, but then he got banished, and for about 3 seconds, like, nothing happened. Now, unlike all these other illusion heroes and Manta, when they use it and they dispel, there is no dispel associated with the disruption. So if you use Spirit Vessel on, say, a Phantom Assassin, and then he uses disruption on them, you'll actually know which is the real hero, because they will still have the effects of Spirit Vessel on them. So I would never just buy a Spirit Vessel against Shadow Demon just because of that. But that's something that you can keep in mind, where it's like, oh, I see him about to go Q the real Luna. Let me throw this Spirit Vessel on her first so that when it pops out, I know which one is real. That is like a little counterplay trick for you guys. Terrorblade, also an illusion hero. Conjure Image does not dispel, and you always know which one's real anyways. The reason I threw him on this list is because you might think of like using it to prevent Sunder, but it does not. He just swaps health, and I don't know how it's coded, but Spirit Vessel doesn't do anything against it when I tested it out. So if you see Terrorblade, Spirit Vessel is not the item you want to buy against him. So that's Spirit Vessel. And then real quick, we're going to throw out some extra value for Urn, which applies to Spirit Vessel as well. But let's say you just wanted to get like a casual Urn, so you didn't need it against any of these heroes. Like, none of these guys are in the game. But you're like, maybe I'll just get an Urn anyways, because I'm a 4 position and I'm getting kills. Very good against Treant because it disables the passive if he is outside of the trees. So for someone like, let's say Bounty Hunter, who's a melee hero, and Treant Protector can play very safe. He can play near the trees. When Bounty Hunter wasn't the best example because Bounty Hunter would be invis. But say you have a melee hero for support, I don't know, Ogre, someone who has a very slow cast animation that can't reach Treant right away, and Treant can run into the trees first, and then it's like, I'll never catch him now. Urn has a pretty solid cast range, and it's instant. So you cast it on Treant, and actually there is a slight delay, but it'll cancel his Nature's Guise, and then he can't run into trees for 8 seconds. So it's pretty good against him. TA, it does burn refraction charges, so this can be a really cheap way to help deal with refraction, is to just Urn her, and for those 8 seconds, like, she can use refraction, but they're going to get burned off really quickly. And then Monkey King, we already talked about, where he can't leap. And so if you wanted to buy a casual Urn to deal with TA refraction, Monkey King so he can't leap around, and maybe Treant, like, Not too bad, actually. I probably still wouldn't buy it, to be honest. But if I had an urn, I would be looking to use it on these guys. I guess that's a better way to say it. And then finally, these 3 heroes like to buy urn for themselves. Even if they don't plan on getting a spirit vessel, the heal from urn is not bad. So remember, let me pull up that Excel again. So remember, the value of like 240 heal for just 840 gold, like that's not so bad. It's the fact that like the reason spirit vessels heal is so bad is because you spend 3,000 gold on it and it's only 320 heal. And the fact that like, oh, I can heal my carry for 320, or I could do 1,300 damage. Whereas with an urn, it's like, oh, I can heal my carry for 240, or I could do 200 damage. You know, it's a very comparable value, and so it's like okay to use it as a heal. And so against these, for Oracle and Io who amplifies all of his own healing with tether, so he would tether to a target and then earn himself. Like it's now even more than that 240 heal. And then Oracle, so urn and Spirit Vessel can actually be, the heal can be canceled if someone damages your teammate. That's another reason why the heal tends to be really bad. But you don't take damage when you're under false promise. So it can't be canceled and it amplifies that heal. So there's a lot of value for Oracle after he ults someone to then use an urn on them. Now, usually I still probably wouldn't recommend it against, like if you're a 5-position Oracle, I don't recommend getting an urn yourself. But maybe if you're in a game and you have a 5-position Oracle on your team and you see him ult someone, like that can, I want you to at least know like, oh, I could use my urn on this guy to like really heal him up. And then Invoker likes to use urn to proc his cold snap. And so these guys benefit a lot from having an urn on their team in some way for their own like ability reasons. And that's it, I think. Yeah, that's it. So really, against these 4, and we can expand to these 10, like really consider, I literally type this out. Even if I don't feel like talking in the game, any game I think there needs to be a spirit vessel, I ask. I'm like, is someone buying a spirit vessel? I need to hear you say it. I think of that scene in like, I don't remember what it is, Halo ODST, where she's like, do you have it? And he's like, yeah, I have it. She's like, I need to hear you say it. It's like, I have it. Like, I need to hear someone say, I am buying a spirit vessel. Because if I start to buy a 4-staff and then I realize no one has a spirit vessel, I have wasted 1,000 gold as a support on an item that I do not need as much as I need a spirit vessel. And that 1,000 gold could be like 5 more minutes that the enemy Huskar gets to run around and win the game. And so when you need spirit vessel, you need it as soon as possible. So someone like Alchemist, Huskar, you need it really quickly. Timbersaw, Bristleback, Necro, Lone Druid, Meepo, you need it really quickly. Spectre, Morphling, you just need it eventually, really, because they're not going to come online for quite a while. Spectre, you probably don't need it till like the 25 to 30 minute mark. And Morphling, actually, it's still pretty good against Morphling early. But he can probably get away by morphing strength and escaping, but he's probably not going to kill you in the early game. And that's why it's kind of okay to delay the Spirit Vessel a little bit. But, I mean, wouldn't we love to kill Morphling, right? Instead of him getting away? And so having it early helps with that. Whereas, like, an Alchemist or a Huskar early, not only are you not going to kill them, but they will then kill you. And that's why it's kind of a bit more important. And then Io, depending how the game's going, it's very good to have it early against Io, but same deal. It's kind of like, as long as I have it later, that's when he's probably going to have a bit more impact. Well, that's not fully true. It really depends who's in the game. Some games, there's just not a good partner for Io, and that's the issue with playing Io in pub games. Other games, when Io is like paired with Bristleback, it's like, oh man, I need this right away. And that's that. Always think of it first. This is the very first item you think about. As you watch the heroes load in, ask yourself, do I need a spirit vessel? Ask yourself, does my team need the spirit vessel? And then you find out, like, who's going to do it. Does the team need it? Am I the person who has to build it? Build an urn first. So in terms of components, let's talk about this. This is how we end it. Always build the urn first. There's no reason to build a vitality booster, and you almost never want to buy a recipe first, right? Why would you buy something that gives you absolutely nothing instead of buying something that gives you stats? But you buy the urn first because you can start building up some charges for when you get a spirit vessel. So your charges do carry over. So let's say you have 5 charges on Urn of Shadows, upgrade it, you now have 5 charges on a spirit vessel. For that reason, actually, I used to use like the Urn of Shadows pretty liberally when it was just a dead end item, and now I'm a little more hesitant to use it if I know I'm building it into a spirit vessel, because it's like I kind of want to save all my charges. But I'll leave it up to you, depending how the game's going. Like if your team's doing well and you think like, oh, it would be really good to heal my teammate here, or like, oh, I think I can get this kill if I use Urn and chase him down. Use it. Don't be super conservative with your Urn charges. If the game is going like average to good, but if it's going really bad and you're like not getting any charges, then you have to be very careful with it. And then in terms of Urn, just build whatever you need. So actually, if you need an Urn really quickly, these are actually not bad starting items, and you'll see that sometimes where people will buy like in fact, I think it was actually in some of my videos as well where I got like a ring of protection with my starting gold because I was like, I'm gonna build an Urn with this. You can absolutely buy these. Again, I wouldn't buy the recipe. This would be last. Sage's Mask is a little worse than it used to be, so I would probably buy Ring of Protection first and then like Sage's Mask, or one of them first, depending what I need, and then Circlet last, just because I don't think 2 attributes is that useful for 155 gold, especially at the start of the game. Like, why not buy 2 Iron Branches if I really need it, and then I save 55 gold? So usually I buy Sages and Ring of Protection first, and then like I round out this item by buying the other 2. Then you buy this. Then you buy this. And that's it. I miss when it had a windlace, but maybe that'll come back in. All right, that's it. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure you buy. Let's turn back to this page so you can see it. Make sure you buy your spirit vessels against these guys. And, if you're a 5 position, make sure someone on your team is getting it. And then maybe yourself. If you're a 4 position, heavily consider, like, oh, maybe I'll buy it myself. Like, it's actually a pretty good item. I know I didn't talk about the attributes, but, like, look at it. You get health, you get armor, mana regen, a couple stats, literally a couple stats. And then the active is awesome. So it's like, it's a pretty solid item. Many people sleep on it. Really think about it. It's actually quite good. All right, that's it. Have a great day.